Blessings, and good morning to all. Today's broadcast is brought to you by Secure Your Energy. Today we will be having a broadcast focusing on where's our energy going right now. Today's topic is we're in the COVID-19. Now, if you've been on our lives, you part of the family, you pretty much know you had a heads up that something was going on with our economy prior to this COVID-19 happening. So if you were paying attention, you were getting prepared, diversifying your portfolio, and trying your best to mitigate the risk factors to what may have been coming up. So now that we see this actual financial hardship is brought to us upon by the COVID-19, and a few weeks ago we did go over how epidemics and pandemics can affect countries, states, people, economy, and everything. So if you haven't seen that video, I advise you to get into the Secure Your Energy group, scroll down, and you will find that content matter. But today, I know we home. We ain't got much to do because we are on quarantine, most people who are not essential workers. So today I am available to talk to you guys. And I want us to start off starting off with a thank you. We want to say thank you and send blessings to the Most High for allowing us to wake up today. That's the most important thing. Secondly, we want to send love to the families who actually physically lost people and are still losing people in the war against the COVID-19. This is supposedly an invisible monster, but this is not invisible. And this monster is hitting hard. So we as individuals, we have to get prepared, continue to fight back with living clean, eating clean, building our immune systems, and much more. So we'll go into more health topics with Nurses to Nurses. I hope you enjoyed the pneumonia video and got a deeper understanding of how pneumonia actually is the second step in COVID-19 patients and what their actual cause of death is really related to, not only septicemia, but as well as pneumonia. So I put that video out there on Nurses to Nurses so you can pay attention to the signs and symptoms, because it's not simply a cold and flu that you may have to overcome when it comes to the COVID-19. All right, so you know what we usually do. We'll usually start with some videos to watch. So we're going to do that like we always do. And then we're going to have some good commentary today. We're going to talk about business. Now, all my Facebook friends that know me, y'all know that I'm a double-decker, triple-layer, heavy hitter. So I don't never sit still, and I'm always trying innovative ways to, one, build my income up, two, to allow me to be as free as possible when it comes to financially living and everything else. So with that goes to say, we're going to talk about what's going on right now in the economy, just short little clips, because we pretty much know it's hitting the hellfire. And then we're going to go into some innovative ways to make money. We're going to go on innovative ways to make money, ways to look at money, as well as ways to start businesses. So the next few broadcasts is going to be a little less dim, and we're going to be focused on building. Because while you're home at this time, you can get so much accomplished just by taking one little step at a time to start your business. And it doesn't take a lot at one time. It takes incremental investments and you actually being diligent and wanting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. All right. So first video we're going to watch this morning. Excuse me, guys. The first video we're going to watch this morning is a video focused on what's going on in the economy right now. Little short clips. We're not doing long videos like we usually do, but I do need y'all to know what's going on in the economy so we can at least have a clear idea of what's going on and not all of this propaganda, just being dropped by certain news feeds.
CFOs across the world are getting more pessimistic, and it's growing so because in many cases the coronavirus is having a more market impact on the businesses. Now, this is according to CNBC's latest iteration of its global CFO survey, And what it looked at was just how pessimistic they got. Basically, CFOs that we have polled have now pretty much said that just about every region of the world will see some kind of a GDP or economic slowdown. Also, some of the things that they're looking at is whether or not we actually do see a market downturn. 5 of 11 regions captured globally by this survey are actually now characterized as declining in terms of their economic outlook. And overall, the U.S. and Canada, they still appear to be the stable parts in this entire survey. The key takeaway here is that now 40% of those CFOs surveyed by CNBC now expect the U.S. to go into some kind of a recession. That's up double what it was just last quarter, and the uncertainty around it is only growing as well. If you take a look at the progression from quarter to quarter, this is where you can really see things happening, because those bars that you're seeing at this graphic are showing that the amount of people that didn't think a recession was going to happen, that has now dropped dramatically. People do think it's going to be the base case, so we'll see if that plays out, Tyler.
All right, thank you very much, Dom Chu.
So that's just a grim look from CFOs of the United States that's basically being honest at this point and looking at the market for what it was. We shared a lot of videos already that showed you how we were actually heading down this curve since about 2012. We only had a little boost in the economy after
it's difficult.
2011 crisis, mortgage crisis, and then things started to get a little rocky. And as we see, started to decline steadily. All right. So the next video we're going to look at, like I told you, they're really short videos this morning. We're going to do more commentary towards the end of the broadcast so we can just, start this day being positive, looking forward for the future, and just start building. Corona will have a larger economic impact than financial crisis economists say. So let's just watch this.
Obviously, a lot of comparisons are being made, initially with that, this is a health crisis. And so we were first looking at SARS, and then it became very clear that this was a health crisis of a much larger, going to have a much larger impact to the global economy. And of course, it's slightly different from the financial crisis in that the problems are directly with companies, and demand and simultaneous demand and supply shock are not, a problem with the banks yet.
I want to ask you about the amount of debt that's now been thrown at the system. The view is from policymakers that there's no point penny pinching at this point. The system needs help. Let's just open the taps and stimulate. But if you look at the US Treasury market, there have been some concerns that perhaps debt levels might be moving too rapidly. You've seen that spike in the yield, for instance, the US 10-year Treasury yield. In Italy, we've seen some strains in that market as well. Do we need to be concerned about bond vigilantes at some point when we're throwing so much money at the system for what a lot of people say could be a short-term problem?
Exactly. I mean, if you think about economies that are in lockdown, they're going to have short, sharp recessions, come back fairly quickly. But in terms of getting businesses and households across, we talk about these bridging loans and loan guarantees to get businesses to survive in that short-term period. We do need a lot of money thrown at the system. And what we're seeing is those economies with high debt levels, particularly that don't have their own central bank, i.e. Italy, they are looking slightly more vulnerable. But in this case, it is needed.
Steve.
Pia, I'm doing a lot of comparing 2008 and 2020 today just because of my juxtaposition near the old European headquarters of Lehman's at 25 Bank Street behind me. And one thing I keep hearing is that the banks are safe, the banks are solid, the banks are not the problem this time, they can be part of the solution, to quote Mark Carney as well. But how safe can the banks be? And I don't want to get anyone in terror where there isn't a terrifying story. But the fact of the matter is everything we're talking about is talking about increasing counterparty risk for the banks and potentially scything off their business model and hurting their net interest margins as well. Just how safe are the banks this time round?
Exactly. I mean, banks are a lot better capitalized than previously. They've definitely learned a lot of lessons from the financial crisis. They're hit with this double whammy. So, lower interest rates from central banks means they're, hit on the net interest margin side. And also, if you're a bank, why would you lend at this point, given the default risk? So, it's a difficult situation for the banks. It's very difficult to say how much the risk is really going to be taken from the individual companies to banks. And what governments are trying to do is effectively say, no, the governments will take the risk.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen.
Okay, guys, so that was CNBC International and their outlook on the global economy right now, and actually the loans, the loans that's coming down to the people and actually to the businesses. We are the ones that start the businesses, so this directly reflects on what we have to do and how we have to approach the situation. Now, the last broadcast, I know you remember me stating, I came over an article, I'm not sure if it was Bloomberg or Wall Street Journal, but they were basically indicating that businesses across the sector in 2020 will make a zero profit into a negative profit. And this is shown to be true because the last broadcast we talked about how the actual Federal Reserve is lowering the interest rate to zero. Now, lowering the interest rate to zero is a supposedly method to try to get people to start getting loans, getting the loans back rolling. We talked about the balance that the Federal Reserve does with increasing the interest rate and lowering the interest rate just to stimulate the economy when they lower it, and then to kind of control the lending processes and things like that when they higher it. So from 2008 to 2000 and now, supposedly the lending sector was supposed to be regulated. We talked about Dodd-Frank as well, the Dodd-Frank Act that Obama put in to regulate these big banks and contracts, so they won't take advantage of the general public and people like you and me who may not know how to read contracts. And this is why in Secure Your Energy, we go over all of these little concepts so you can start to branch off yourself and understand more. So when you're presented with these loan contracts, or you're starting to go into, as we talked about, saving 401ks or saving mutual funds, you actually know what these terminologies mean and how to talk to these lenders or these real estate investors or stockbrokers. This is why we're here. So what they're saying is that with the loans right now, they're at zero. We talked about how that may affect our savings accounts and how, if this continues, we'll literally have to pay just to have our money in a savings account. We're already like at 0.01 when it comes to what type of interest we receive on a saving account, which is barely nothing at this point of time. So we always have to look for innovative ways to try to make money. We have to look at innovative ways to try to have passive income with using as less energy as possible. And what that goes to say, later on in the broadcast, we're going to come up with some ideas together of what type of industries that you think, or myself, I'm giving you some suggestions that the average person can get in. As of right now, I wanted to highlight, we have a high demand to get ventilators and personal protective equipment and things like that. Now, I know that's a big market to get into, but that is a market that's available. And I feel crazy. I'm just going to tell you, I feel crazy because as a healthcare worker, as well as a person who has indulged into, learning about economy and things like that. One of the things I always said to myself since I first became a nurse was, I'm going to invest in gloves. I'm going to invest in protective wear because we run through it. And now you're looking at the situation, we having a total frenzy over protective wear. So if I probably would have took the time to look into companies who made this type of thing, it would have allowed us myself, to have some extra passive income coming in. So when you have ideas, guys, don't sleep on it. Just try to, do a little bit of research and follow up on your ideas, because you never know what the Most High is telling you for the future. So I wanted to share that with you because I feel a little salty because I really should have invested in gloves, because that was what I kept saying. I'm going to invest in gloves because I run through them. But now this is actual things that we need, dire need. So paying attention to the tone of what's going on in society would allow you to make better would allow you to make better investment decisions for the future, as say the situation I just told you. So let's go into this next video. It's like 1 minute and 50 seconds. I'm keeping it short, guys, because y'all know I'll go in. Economists predict trade war impact the U.S. in 2020. So we don't only have to pay attention to what's going on with the coronavirus, how it's crippling our healthcare industry, and I had a few people talking about that, like, oh, hospitals are empty. I went in hospitals that are empty. But to be honest, a lot of hospitals cannot hold what's going on right now. Economically, they can't afford it. A lot of these hospitals are owned by private sectors, by private individuals that have a certain amount of income, a certain amount of money invested, and a certain amount of money that's supposed to come back from the hospital through services. So when you have services that's cut off, such as elective surgeries, and then you have a high influx of need of equipment, these hospitals are losing out and they're shutting down. Unless they receive the government funding that they need for this pandemic, you're going to see certain sectors like this that you're like, wow, if this is a pandemic, why are the hospitals shutting down? Because there's a whole economical background behind having these healthcare facilities as well. So not only our healthcare sector is impacted heavy, the trade war, nobody talking about that. He ain't talking about the trade war anymore, because I hope he's not. And I'm talking about POTUS. Everybody know who POTUS is. Because at this point, we need everybody globally. And that's what I'm seeing, doing my research about the COVID-19, that countries are lending hand to other countries. And this actually helped to slow down their numbers. Now, you see that our numbers are going into 150,000 people, probably a little bit more. I think we're probably at 200,000. Don't quote me. I don't remember off the top of my head. Inside of the United States, which is I think 25,000 or something like that. I looked this morning, which is amazing, because the number is spreading, and then we only have, the number's increasing, and then we only have a good majority coming from the New York area. So imagine when we get the test supplies and the actual people start to show the signs and symptoms across the United States. Those numbers are going to double. Those numbers are going to triple. So we have to be aware of that when it comes to what's going on economically in each state and each area in your Pacific county as well. You have to pay attention to what's going on with your hospital. You're going to need that. You're going to need those services as well. And also, we have to think about ways to compensate for these things that's happening. Now, it's called consumers, and we don't want to just be a consumer. We want to be a producer. We want to be a producer as well. We don't need just big companies to be our producers. And that's why we're going to talk about starting a business. That's what we're going to talk about. It's not easy, but it can be done as long as you have at least some support behind you and you have a clear idea of what you want to do. So the economists predict trade war's impact on the United States. We're going to listen to this video and then talk about it a little bit, because as I said, POTUS is a little bit quiet right now. A little bit quiet.
Figure out the outlook for trade and its effects on growth next year. In general, they say prolonging the trade war and increasing tariff has three effects. One, increases downside risk to the economy and limits the potential for an upside surprise. It also confirms their modest growth forecast for next year. Some economists have baked in what they call trade peace, and some just aren't buying it. Goldman Sachs, writing in November, quote, "We expect the drag from the trade war to fade gradually, although much could still go wrong. We now expect a phase one agreement to be signed in coming weeks." That was back on November 22nd. But after the president yesterday said there may not be a trade deal until after the 2020 elections, Mike Ferroli at JP Morgan told me, quote, "We never swung all the way to thinking the trade peace was breaking out, so it's not like we have to do a big pivot here." Goldman has a more upbeat 2020 outlook at 2.3%. They're on the right side of the survey we did yesterday. They're banking on trade peace. JP Morgan not banking on it all, only at 1.5%. UBS, most pessimistic of all, at 1.1. We contacted a half dozen economists after the president's comments. Most have just about had it with taking out the erasers. Several inclined to assume the worst on trade and be pleasantly surprised if they're wrong.
Is there a trend to the growth, how it ebbs and flows during the year?
So what you see is not only did we ask everybody their annual, and then we averaged all that up to, the average, by the way, is 1.7 there. What we see is that there's a bit of a debate. Is the fourth quarter right now or the first quarter the bottom of this slowdown? And what you see is that it goes to 1.5 now, kind of 1.5 on the next quarter, and then it gradually ticks back up, but it only gets to 2% on average by the end of the fourth quarter next year.
So this video again was brought to you by CNBC, and I believe this video was done. Let me just give you the date because most of the things I gave you is kind of up to date. This was December 4th, 2019. Now, this is when we were talking about the trade wars that was being, frazzled up by certain presidents to show strength, to supposedly renegotiate contracts that wasn't good for the United States. But what that goes to say, when you do business, you have to approach business in a certain way because you never know what's going to happen. So from what I have researched right now is that China is trying to get up and running, and I don't think they're able to do it because it may be a second round of COVID going around. I shared that broadcast on Nurses to Nurses. That is a second round going around in China, and that's according to Wuhan News. This is a news broadcast that I follow, because they're getting undisclosed information that is being hidden from China. So what that goes to say, we have to be aware of who we're trading with and where we're going to be able to get our resources from. Now, as a small business, you also have to be aware too. I do run a few small businesses myself, and we're going to talk about that. I run my small businesses through my children, through their talent, as well as through my research and what I like to do. So what that goes to say, I have to pay attention, and other people in different industries have to pay attention to where they get their supply from. If you're buying clothes, if you're buying makeup, if you're buying computer hardware, where do these come from and how it's going to affect your actual sector that you want to be in? And if these trade wars actually affect you as a business, you have to find other ways to mitigate the issue, and that's by looking for other resources or using other products to compensate, or actually get into an industry that's more easily available right now due to the circumstances. So there's so many things that we can be paying attention to when it comes to starting a business or, trying to get that passive income coming in, because in times like this, if you have passive income coming in, it would be a little less pressure on you. It is pressure on all of us because we have to work. And most Americans, as the study came out, don't have more than $400 saved in their account. So God knows they can't live 30 days. So having a passive income and coming up with ideas now is the best time to do it, because once the economy starts to rolling again, supposedly, because the banks keep, dishing money in the stock market so it won't crash, we may be able to come in and start different sectors of business based on our talents, based on, newly acquired knowledge, in this time that we're in quarantine. So that is more so the basis of this broadcast today, is for us to come up with a plan individually, collectively, whatever you need to do with the people around you to start to move forward, because we can't be stagnant. We can't stay still, and we can't wait for the government to actually give us what we need. The $1,200 check that people, may be looking forward to getting, that's going to be gone. That's going to be going in one blow. Like, it's already going in my head.
Joseph, we have officially...
What that goes to say. That's a mortgage payment for some people. What about food? And that may help someone for a month. I'm not going to say it won't help. But what's going to happen after that? And that's what we have to think of, the aftermath. I think this administration, as well as a lot of people's perspective in America, is like, what we can get right now, let's handle what's in front of our face. But that's not totally a good approach. When you see impending doom, such as a cloud coming in the sky, you're like, wow, it's getting dark. It's getting dark. And you're like, well, I'm just going to deal right now because it's clear. I'm still just going to wear my jacket. I'm just going to, wear my shorts. But you're not going to go get that raincoat. You're not going to get the umbrella, get ready, because you see the storm coming. So we've been talking about a storm, and there has been a lot of individuals. I want to say I'm proud of you for going out and trying to start your own something, even if it's making plants in vases and selling them. When I was younger, me and my mother, we picked up this talent where we were making vases. So we would go to the Valley Fair and pick up a nice $20 vase, and then we'll get all these fake nice flowers for $1, 50 cents, $2.50. Put it together, these beautiful vases, and sell them for $50, $75, and we will make some money off of it. And this was something that we like to do, and it was nothing that was big, but it just came to, I think I started, I was doing hair and kind of getting to the feng shui of trying to make extra money. And this is something that, you know, we did. She actually made one for herself, and myself, I made a few vases for people. So with that goes to say, the little ideas can sometimes bring you something you need. Having that hustler mentality is very important. You know, when I was in Newark, before I got into the nursing career, I'll find any hustle I can. 4th of July come, I'm online wanting to buy fireworks, wanting to buy whatever I can buy, or, you know, light streamers, and go down to go down to Jersey City and sell them, you know, and sell them, make some money. Whatever you could do to try to generate some income is the most important thing, and how you reinvest is the second important thing. You don't take that money and bring it home and just squander it. I understand we have bills and things, but it's called prioritizing and kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. We'll talk about that on other broadcasts, because the rich do it. I have learned how to do it, but as I stated, you need to make sure that you have some type of residual income before you start playing the credit game. That's the next game that we'll be talking about. So let's go on to our next video. It is, did we learn a lesson from 2008 economic crash? Obviously, you know we did, because as soon as this new administration came in, they debunked Dodd-Frank Act. It was totally ripped to shreds. So the regulations of the loan companies and, you know, lenders was out the windows, and the predatory loans started again. You know, and I can say that through refinancing and literally dealing with this company that was kind of shady, you know, in their practices. But, you know, when you report them to the Federal Trade Commission, it's like only just reporting to the Better Business Bureau at this point. They're not really able to do anything or take it to that next level, and the representative will tell you. So y'all have to be very aware of the loans that you actually get into as well, because right now we're going to have a lot of new business owners that's like, hey, all right, we're going to get into zero interest, this interest, but you really need to pay attention if it's fixed amount of interest or if it's adjustable, because if you sign an adjustable interest rate loan, that loan will fluctuate based on what's going on in the economy. So these are the little things that adds up to make you make the right decision. So let's watch this short video. This video a little bit longer, y'all. It's about 7 minutes, but it's like, did we really learn from 2008 financial crisis? And if we did, are you prepared? Have you got prepared? These are the questions you should ask yourself. Ask your husband, your wife, you know, what did we do? Did we really know what happened in 2008? And how those chain of events actually lead to us in this situation right now.
Package passed. What, in terms of what the way that this will work, I mean, obviously money into the hands of businesses and people is the first order of business. It's a massive deal, but there have been those who say it is still not enough. When you look at the $2 trillion, is there a chance that more will be needed here?
Well, that will depend on how long the pandemic continues, and all the indications are it's very high risk that it won't continue long enough, that there will need to be more money. There were some big deficiencies in the bill. The most important was inadequate aid to the states and localities, which are on the front line in providing health care, but their revenues are plummeting. They have balanced budget frameworks, and so with the revenues plummeting, they'll have to cut back. And the other sector that did not get anywhere near the attention is the nonprofit sector, which includes our educational institutions, our research institutions, vital to the future of our country. They didn't have the lobbyists that the airline industry, Boeing, and the other corporate giants had, and so they got left out of the picture.
Professor, the Federal Reserve and its presidents keep reiterating that the economy was in a strong position before we went into this. Is that all now by the wayside? Is there any guarantee that we come out of this and the economy can find its way to a strong footing again?
Well, actually, if you look more carefully at the economy, it was not on strong footing. You know, what was striking to me about the economy.
Thank you. I just wanted to stop because when she said that, I was like, that's a lie. The economy was not strong before this happened. And one thing I do want to highlight, that Boeing is the same airline crash company that was having all of those crashes and people were dying and they took their plane off the market. So why is Boeing being included in this $2 trillion stimulation packet? That's what we need to pay attention to. So instead of us being distracted about, oh, it's $2 million stimulus packet, we literally should be knowing what's going on in the stimulus packet and why these supposed Democrats, I'm not a Democrat, that's saying that it's a slush fund. We don't know as the people because we don't get to read it. That's why I really don't get into the realms of politics at the end of the day, because you're just having that herd group mentality. You don't have any evidence, facts that you read. What's the actual legislative laws that they're coming up with? You really don't know. These people are putting on a face, just like when Nicki Minaj and all of them go in front of the TV and get their makeup done and they get ready and they do their little lines. This is the same thing that our politicians does, okay? But in times like this, I'm gonna be honest, I just want to send love and just a whole bunch of admiration to Government Cuomo in New York. This man is the most heartfelt gentleman that I have watched, as in when it comes to politics, in his approach to the coronavirus and actually updating the general public with comprehensive, valuable information, clear and concise. People who move like Cuomo is the people that you make and have more trust in. But anything where you got people talking around in circles and, never getting to the point, you need to question their actually MO and their motives and not just fall for the hype of the body of Democrat and Republican. We have to get out of that group herd gang mentality. So the people who think they're not part of a gang, yes, you're part of a gang. And that's the Democrat and the Republican gang. And you're probably just as worse as the Bloods and Crips. You may not like it, but y'all still have the same crazy mentality as I noticed gangs on the street have. And that's why I will not have no parts in that. Sorry to go off on a tangent, but I really need to let y'all know that this is not politically fueled information that I'm sharing with you. I do not participate in the system until the system is going to be revamped properly, where we literally have a word on what's going on instead of having all these checks and balance systems and sectors that we literally cannot get through. One, like the electoral college. Two, like what happened right here in the state of Georgia, where we had our governor steal the election, where our votes were supposed to count. Now, no one can tell me that I'm making up anything when it comes to our actual way our system is set up. It's horrible, and people need to stop lying. So I'm so glad that he said, hey, no, the economy was messed up before this. Let me clarify it for you, because we live in a fantasy world. So let's watch the rest of this video.
Before the advent of the pandemic was that in spite of a $1 trillion deficit, growth was estimated to be likely to be well below 2% in 2020. That's a sign of a weak economy, not a strong economy. Investment was relatively mild. Wages were not doing very well. Incomes of ordinary Americans were not doing very well. So I think what was striking about the economy was that it was not in the position that it should have been.
And obviously, some of those systemic issues will be not just with us, but worsened. And I think particularly of deteriorating balance sheets, right? Household debt, business debt. We didn't learn any good lessons about saving and being prepared for a downturn. How much worse is it on the other side of this?
Very much so. Although the stimulus, the package, the $2 trillion package, is making it much better than it otherwise would have been. I mean, you're absolutely right that we didn't learn the lesson of 2008 and 2009. We let a crisis go to waste. The fact is that after the December 2017 tax cut for corporations, rather than using that money to build up a buffer against the kinds of events like this one that always happen, what they did is they had almost $1 trillion of share buyback, putting them in a much more precarious position. And many companies took out a lot of debt, taking advantage of the very low interest rates that were an anomaly in this stage of the economic cycle. So we actually almost encourage firms to get into debt by those low.
So as I mentioned, and if you hear what he's saying clearly, this is the double-edged sword to the low interest rate loans or 0% interest that was handed down by the Federal Reserve. It will give you the incentive to actually go take loans, but can you really manage it, and would you be able to have income coming in based on whatever sector that you're in? So having all of these loans doesn't mean that you're actually going to do well and be able to pay it back. There's a reason why they lowered the interest rate to 0 at that point, is because the economy wasn't doing well. So what that goes to say, he said one more thing that was important that we just highlight is that when you do make the money, they were taking the money and reinvested in other sectors that was more risky. Just like with the EFTs that we talked about, those risky financial tools that were used to be sold over and over and over, which was connected to our houses in 2008. So some businesses are still having these risky practices with the loan or with the money that they're receiving from the government, per se, to help bail them out. So us on a lower level have to understand and have to learn from these things, because when we're starting our business, when we have residual income coming in, we have to learn to save some money for a rainy day, as well as take some money to reinvest back into our sector, be it tools, education, innovation, marketing, whatever you need to do. And also remember to pay yourself first. It's always important to pay yourself because you are working for yourself. It's not easy at first, depending on what sector you're in, but once you get the ball rolling, after the first 2 years of a business that is actually good in the sector that it's in, it's needed, you will see something flourish from it. Okay?
Interest rates. And again, that was a result of pressure in part that was pushed by the Trump administration.
Well, let's get to that, Professor Stiglitz. Obviously, I wanted to point out that the IMF has said that 81 requests have come in, and not just from the most emerging economies, but also middle-income economies, and there just isn't enough money or reserves out there in those economies to pull them through. That said, you have written in Project Syndicate recently, the spread of diseases is one negative side effect of globalization. If we stir it all in a pot, does this presage the end of populist leaders, or does it strengthen them?
Well, first, let me highlight how important it is that we have a global response to a pandemic, which is a global health crisis. Those viruses don't carry passports, they don't carry visas, and if we don't contain it everywhere, they will spread to global response. And as you pointed out, a large number of emerging markets and developing countries will not be able to respond adequately. They don't have the resources that the United States has to be able to put in anything comparable relative to their economy of the $2 trillion that the United States has just passed. So I hope in the G20 meeting that there will be more than just a commitment, rhetoric to do something, that there are concrete steps. It would make a very big help if, for instance, the special drawing rights were be a new issuance of those special drawing rights, say $500 billion, that would make a big difference for the capability of the global economy to respond to this crisis. Now, there will be some populists who will take advantage of the current situation to say that we need to close our borders. But let's be clear. we can't shut ourselves off in the modern world. We need resources, we need markets, we need ideas, we need labor from one country to another. We are inevitably going to be globally integrated. There is a question about whether countries should be somewhat more self-sufficient. The ideology that prevailed for the last 40 years that borders don't matter had already been undermined by the position that our own populist leader had taken. So countries are aware that borders mattered, and this will just remind them how important it is that they have to look at things both from a global point of view and from a national point of view.
So what I would like for us to take just for the last few minutes of that commentary, basically household debt has to be measured versus actual business debt. We can't just be worried about what's going on in businesses and not be worried about what's going on in our household. And that's what we're talking about here as well, to branch off from the big guys and bring it into our home or how it actually affects us. So we have to know how to manage our debt, actually know what loans we should take and should not take based on our actual monies that's coming in. Some people overestimate their actual potential, and it's not really good to do that, to say, okay, I'm going to take this loan out on this car because I know that I'm going to get my taxes, so I'll be able to pay on that, and then I'll eventually find a job. That's not a good plan. Not at all. Not at all. A better plan will, okay, what I'm going to do is wait till I get my taxes. I'm going to look around for cars that's reasonable that I can buy outright and have low insurance because it's paid off, and use that to look for a job. And then from there, I can build and maybe get a new car and a loan and move on from there. So it's like how you approach the situation logically is what's going to get you to that next level. We have to have a real logical approach, and that was one of the things that I talked about, just going back and forth on Facebook with certain people.
Okay, Trey, I got this.
The main issue that started off with COVID-19 was that we all deal with a lot of conspiracies in the United States. We don't deal with a lot of, across the globe we do this, but we don't deal with reality and what's in front of our face. Even though it can be a conspiracy, it can be a group of individuals conspiring to get one certain event to happen to affect another group, because that's what conspiracy is. We have to think above that and actually get prepared for what's going on. So to my conspiracy people out there, if you feel like this situation is related to 5G, is related to the government making this, instead of talking about it, find out. Not saying don't talk about it and spread the information. Find a way to find the validity, facts behind it, and maybe create an organization that can help move forward on the agenda of getting things classified in the United States or to the people of the world. That's just going off topic a little bit, but that goes into our unrealistic view of what's going on, and it keeps us in the deep end instead of us actually sitting here being ready. We're sitting here in imaginary world, oh my God, these people are conspiring, their bankers are this, and I know it. I share so many videos on Black Security Channel about the creation of the Federal Reserve, about how gold will be attached to money, why will be attached to money, how actually as a United States citizen we are surety for the debt, our labor, our energy, what we pay the national debt, that they keep on just buying things. We have no control of what they buy. The budget is created by a body that has been sitting in Congress for how many years, that we can't go out as of yet. I know some individuals that we put in, as time goes on, but we have a lot of old people in there that don't have the same views as the millennials and new people. So it's really hard for us to get our words into certain things. With that goes to say, we have to step it up and actually create the path or the avenue so we can get our voices simple. The gang mentality has to go. And if you didn't have that mentality, y'all would have been more focused on your family and actually having reserves of food, getting prepared, having, like, some people are home right now, can't even function. Can't function with their kids, can't function with all types of stuff. You know, I shared a funny video yesterday. You know, a woman like, man, there's not enough marijuana in the world for me to deal with this. I need help. You know, it's stressful for people. But at this time, we have to start preparing for the future. We have to start preparing for the future. So if something like this was to happen again, in which you do know that this may roll back around again, that we'll be more prepared and we'll be paying attention to the right things instead of dealing with propaganda and drama. So we're going to share another video today. It's only we're getting down to the end, and then we're going to talk about business. We're about to get into talking about business. Healthcare stocks lead Wall Street rally. So what you're telling right now, what's holding up our economy right now, what's actually holding up is the healthcare industry and all the money that's going into it for the protective wear, the patients that's coming in. This is the only thing that's keeping our economy at bay right now while we're all in quarantine. So let's just watch this.
Optimism ruled the day on Wall Street Monday as investors took comfort in President Trump's decision to extend stay-at-home guidelines through April in order to curtail the spread of the coronavirus in the U.S. Percentage gain. Optimism ruled the day on Wall Street Monday as investors took comfort in President Trump's decision to extend stay-at-home guidelines through April in order to curtail the spread of the coronavirus in the U.S. Percentage gains for the Dow, S&P 500, and NASDAQ were each more than 3%. Ross Gerber is CEO and president of Gerber Kawasaki.
So we know that social distancing and quarantines work. So by being disciplined this month, I think we can get beyond this. So the market's happy with that, with Trump doing what's necessary to get beyond this and to open up the economy for real eventually soon.
Drug stocks were in rally mode on promising developments related to the fight against coronavirus. Abbott Labs jumped more than 6% after it won U.S. approval for a coronavirus test that can deliver results within minutes. The company plans to start.
Oh, that stopped very abruptly. Very abruptly. Let's move on to our next video. Now let's get into business. What we're going to do with business. And I was told that we're having some broadcasting issues because, you know, Facebook don't like certain things like this. Facebook don't want us to have freedom of information. Facebook don't want us to uplift ourselves. If I was up here stripping, talking about sex, money, and drugs, Facebook will have no problem with my broadcast going real, you know, clear. But since I'm here trying to uplift us and we're working on bettering ourselves and separating ourselves from the monster, they call a system that don't give a damn about us, that haven't been giving us protective wear, have not been telling us the truth about what's going on with the coronavirus from day one, how we all need to have face masks on, how this stays in the air for up to 2 hours. This is what I'm telling you, Facebook. This information is going to be put right back up here because the recording is not only live, but it's being recorded. So anybody who missed any portions of this, don't worry, baby. I'll be putting it up. Facebook knows I'm relentless. So one thing they will not do is stop God's child from getting the information and waking the tribes up. So let's watch this lady. It's funny because I haven't seen so much of Gail in ever. Like, I never even knew she existed really till she got involved with the nonsense. So this one is Macy's, Kohl's, Gap, and other places are facing financial issues related to the pandemic. So this is what you have to look forward to when it comes to these department stores trying to get themselves back on their feet as well.
Forcing more gigantic job losses in this country's Macy's, Kohl's, and Gap announced widespread furloughs yesterday, leaving most of their workers without pay. CBS News business analyst, that's Jill Schlesinger, joins us now to discuss that. Jill, we were talking about Macy's in the room. Everybody I know has been there. Just an unscientific poll in this room. There's Andre in one corner, Kenton in another, Alexis. We've all been to Macy's. And we knew that they were in financial trouble. But do you think that they can now survive this pandemic? I can't imagine a world without Macy's.
I know, and Bloomingdale's, which they also own. And, you know, when you think about it, what they have done is, I think, probably tried to create a survival plan. And that means furloughing these 125,000 people, just an enormous number of people. But they also had borrowed money prior to this move, so about $1.5 billion from their credit lines. They canceled orders. They stopped paying dividends to their shareholders, which they should have done. They say this is what is necessary to ensure that they can survive the pandemic.
So we also mentioned Kohl's and Gap in that lead, introducing you. Do you see other retail stores following suit sooner rather than later?
Absolutely. You know, there are about 630,000 retail outlets that are shuttered right now in the month of March. And the National Retail Federation says that they're going to lose something like over $400 billion. So absolutely, L Brands, so Victoria's Secret, they own the Victoria's Secret and Ann Taylor, and every single one of these retailers is going to be forced to do this because otherwise they are going to be behind the eight ball. And remember, the retail industry was suffering already. Last year, 9,300 store closures, 23 bankruptcies. That was when the economy was good. So imagine the pressure they're under right now.
I know. So what advice do you have for furloughed employees? A lot of them are listening to you right now.
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of them. They're sending me emails. Number one, of course, you're furloughed. That means you can actually apply for unemployment benefits in your state. So go ahead and do that. And of course, prioritize those bills. Food first. Shelter comes next, but really food's your priority. And I would say this, although you hope you're going to be rehired, and Macy's hopes, and all these retailers hope they're going to bring these folks back, I would be looking for a job in all of those places where there are job announcements, whether it's a Walmart or Amazon or Dollar General or CVS. I think the act of looking gives you some sense of control over a situation which really is out of control for all of us. So even if you just looked and stay engaged, I think that mentally that's a good move for everybody.
You know, we already know how bad the weekly jobless numbers are, and now the St. Louis Fed is forecasting, listen to this number, Jill, as many as 47 million people could be unemployed. Does that make sense to you?
Well, I saw that report yesterday. I love the researchers at the St. Louis Fed. They do tend to be somewhat curmudgeonly, as many economists are. Here's what I think we know. We're going to see weekly claims come in another staggeringly high number. We will get monthly jobless numbers on Friday. And this month, for the month of March, the numbers are not going to look so bad, maybe a loss of about 150,000 jobs. Still, that would snap a more than 9-year winning streak. The job situation is going to be getting worse and worse, at least for the next few months. While I hope it doesn't get up to that 30% number, most of the economists that I speak to really do expect us to peak at 10, 12, maybe 14%. My hope is that this will be short-lived, but I don't want to pin this on hopes. We all have to prepare for the worst. Yeah. I know that's hard to do, but we'll get through this.
That is hard to do, and I'm thinking you're calling them curmudgeonly. I bet they like that, Jill.
All right, guys. So as she suggested, she gave a few good suggestions, but, you know, like I said, we have to not only look for jobs, we have to create our own industry and our own lane. You know, so as I gave you some suggestions earlier in the broadcast, what I did when I was younger, because I always was a hustler. I always try to hustle. We're going to make some money. We're going to make some money because we got kids and we got family to take care of. So the next few videos are going to be focused on starting a business, what's important, you know, key concepts to have in your head when you're starting to get into the realms to start a business. It could be any business. You just have to have a business mindset. You know, one of the business mindsets you have to have is that, listen, it's not going to be easy. There is going to be work involved, and just as much work that you will give someone you work for, you're going to have to give that energy to your business, and you may not be compensated at first. But the compensation at the end will be much more much more higher than a job, because you'll probably have a business that you can actually pass down to your family, someone you can pass down to or create generational wealth. And that is the most important topic that I can give you, if I ever said anything, is to have the goal to create generational wealth. Us as brown melanated people, this is not a concept that's in our head for some apparent reason, but we're going to get it in there. We have to create generational wealth and stop living for today. Getting a paycheck, paying the bills, and going to party, going to buy clothes, going to get your hair done. Sometimes you have to take that sacrifice. And if you can make it through right now, where we're in quarantine, and I know all of y'all ain't going to the hair salon, especially not the nail salons, no disrespect. Y'all are saving a little bit of money, whatever little income you're coming in. And with this practice, you can take this after we get through this pandemic and have more self-control in your spending. So 7 rules of money, how to be good with your money. Let's start off with that. We got to start to be good with this paper money. Okay, we have to know how to make money for us, or use credit to make money for us. So let's start right here.
Life-changing content. Let me share with you the story of my friend Jeff and how he came to not only learn the 7 rules of money, but how he was able to use these rules to quit his 9-to-5 job and fulfill his dreams of becoming a world traveler. Meet Jeff. Jeff is a 38-year-old data entry clerk at a mid-sized IT company in Chicago. Or, at least he was until a few weeks ago when he gave in his letter of resignation. Rewind 10 years and Jeff was punching the clock at this IT company day in and day out. Every morning, he would dread having to go into work and counted down the days until he could retire. Sadly, Jeff wasn't the best with his money, so being able to retire at any age seemed like a stretch. One day, Jeff went into work and was introduced to a new colleague named Steve. Steve was hired on as a consultant computer engineer for the company. Steve was a white-haired, 50-something-year-old man who seemed to always be walking around with a smile on his face. At lunch that day, Jeff walked by Steve, who was sitting alone in the lunchroom. He continued to wonder why the man looked so happy, but left him to eat alone. Every single day that week, Jeff watched as Steve ate his lunch with a huge grin on his face. Finally, he decided to ask Steve what he was so happy about. Jeff sat down and reintroduced himself to Steve and mentioned that he was perplexed as to why he was constantly smiling. Steve chuckled and said that there was a lot to be happy about. Jeff didn't like the simple answer and wanted him to elaborate, so he began to share with Steve how hard it is for him to drag himself into work every day and how boring his job as a data entry clerk can be. Then, Steve began to open up and explain to Jeff that being a computer engineer is his second career that he learned after he retired many years ago. Jeff sat there perplexed, wondering how Steve could have been retired already and have gone back to school to learn computer engineering, so he asked Steve to explain his story. Steve told Jeff that he retired at age 40, took a few years to travel, then completed his degree in computer science. Steve could tell that Jeff was impressed with his story, but he admitted that he was just like Jeff when he was younger. He told Jeff that he used to work as a stockbroker in New York City, and while he made good money, he too hated going into his job at work. Jeff was eagerly listening to Steve's story and asked just how Steve was able to retire so young. Steve then said the phrase that would change Jeff's life forever. I learned the 7 rules of money. Steve said that normally he didn't share this information with anyone, but since Jeff was the only person to come sit with him at lunch the entire week, that he would be happy to impart this wisdom on him. Jeff accepted, and Steve began with rule number 1. Rule number 1, pay yourself first. Steve explained that many people intend to save, but simply never get around to it. In fact, 1 in 6 respondents to a 2017 survey said they simply hadn't had the time to set up a savings plan. Steve said that even if you have the best intentions, unexpected expenses arise, and without knowing how much you want to save, you will never know how much you can spend. Steve explained that more than 60% of Americans don't employ any form of budgeting, which hamstrings their ability to save. This lack of financial oversight, combined with low wages, is a reason that more than 3/4 of all workers in the US live paycheck to paycheck, leaving little chance for savings. Steve admitted that he too was once one of these lackluster savers until he learned a few simple tricks. The first was the 20-30-50 method. The 20-30-50 method works as follows. Every month you divide your income into the following way. 50% is designated to living expenses like rent, utilities, and groceries. The next 30% goes towards entertainment costs like going out to eat or seeing a movie. The final 20% is meant to go right into your savings account. Steve explained that allocating part of his income before the month started helped him get an idea of how much he could save, but some months he would dip into that amount and end up saving less than he intended. Then, he learned the second trick, which was to set up automated deductions. Steve explained to Jeff that automated deductions work in the following way. Every 2 weeks, part of your paycheck is sent directly into a savings account instead of the full amount going right into a checking account. Jeff explained that routing money into an account that you can access ensures you don't spend the money allocated to savings, and this helps Steve save hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of his time as a stockbroker. Rule number 2, saving will never make you rich. While Steve appeared to be a big proponent of saving money, he then admitted to Jeff that saving money is not enough to become rich. Steve explained that the problem with saving money is that it doesn't grow. The typical savings account only pays 0.09% interest. That means that even if you have $100,000 in your savings account, you would get back only $90 in return in 1 year's time. And after you net that return against inflation of 2%, you would actually have lost money. Steve then stressed the importance of investing. He explained that he was lucky to learn just how powerful.
So let's just stop the video right there. One thing I want you to highlight is the mechanics of saving money over time in a bank and what you'll actually receive if you do the math properly. So sometimes it's better for you to invest it in different sectors so you can receive more interest.
Powerful compounded interest was at an early age, and from age 18 to 40, when he retired, he invested $250 a week every single week. During that 22-year span, he received an average return of 10%, which at age 40 left him with over $1 million, of which $750,000 was compound interest that he had earned. In fact, it is the same lump sum of money that Steve continues to live off many years later, but this is only possible because of his wise spending ways. Rule number 3, you must live below your means. Steve explained that this rule may seem obvious, but still millions of people have a hard time following this rule. You see, we live in a materialistic world where many people are more worried about getting a new iPhone than saving for retirement, and these types of short-sighted decisions often have people spending much more than they earn. The truth is that if you ever want to achieve financial freedom, then you must spend less than you earn and put away the difference. By putting away this money, you give yourself so many advantages that having money in the bank provides. Firstly, having a lump sum of money set aside can give you the peace of mind that you can weather any financial challenge that comes your way. Moreover, you can use that money to start a business, which could double or triple your income once your company becomes profitable. Better yet, if you invest that money wisely and build up enough of a financial nest egg, you can give in your 2 weeks notice at work and retire early just like Steve did. Rule number 4, you must have emergency funds. Steve explained that one of the least exciting but more important aspects of your financial health is having an emergency fund set up. Steve stressed to Jeff that if he did not have a cash emergency fund set up, that he must make the establishment of one a top priority. While Steve had just explained how leaving money in a savings account wasn't the best way to grow your money, he said that it is perfectly acceptable to keep money on hand in a checkings or savings account. Steve could tell that Jeff wasn't super excited by this money rule, so he decided to stress the importance of an emergency fund. Steve explained that 20 years ago, his wife got very sick and had to be hospitalized for 3 months. Steve didn't know if she'd be able to recover from her illness, so he took off time from work to spend every single day with her in the hospital. He said that luckily she pulled through and made a full recovery, but being able to rely on an emergency fund was critical in her time of need. Therefore, Steve urged Jeff to put a year's worth of living expenses aside in case he had his own personal emergency to attend to. Rule number 5, use debt wisely. Steve went on to explain that one of the keys to becoming rich is to avoid making bankers and credit card lenders rich. Some purchases, like buying a home or paying for a college education, are difficult to make if you don't go into debt. But both student loans and mortgage debts are generally classified as good debt, because buying a home and getting an education can ultimately increase your net worth. Other assets, Steve explained, don't go up in value, so if you're borrowing to buy them, you take a double hit. Interest plus depreciation. Steve explained that while he loved fancy cars, a car is one of the worst depreciating assets that you can go into debt for, as it loses value very quickly, and interest can be very costly. Steve explained that as a rule of thumb, when buying any depreciating asset, including your vehicle, make it your goal to pay cash, and if you can't afford to buy it in cash, then either wait until you can or buy a cheaper car. Rule number 6, the more you learn, the more you earn. Steve explained that his mantra in life is, the more you learn, the more you earn, which is why he actively works on expanding his knowledge every single day. Steve admitted that he wasn't always a voracious learner, but as a computer engineer became a huge fan of Bill Gates during the early years of Microsoft, and came to learn that Bill Gates takes reading vacations just to catch up on books he wants to finish. Moreover, another one of his idols, Warren Buffett, reads for numerous hours a day. At an early age, Steve figured that reading needed to be a part of his daily routine, as it allowed him to learn new ideas, concepts, and open his mind to new possibilities. Jeff wasn't much of a reader, but asked Steve what exactly he should be reading to help him grow his wealth. Steve explained that nonfiction books on social skills, business development, economics, and any other self-development related areas are great places to start. Even staying current on world news can help you make more informed decisions in your day-to-day life. Rule number 7, money won't make you happy. After going through the previous 6 money rules, Jeff exclaimed that he couldn't wait to use these rules to become rich and buy all the things he always dreamt of having. Steve laughed as he knew the truth about money that Jeff had yet to realize. Steve explained to Jeff that money can only buy happiness when it's spent correctly. Steve wanted to drive home this point by first explaining when spending money doesn't make you any happier. Many times, people buy stuff because they think it will make them happy. They just have to have the latest phone or outfit. And yes, spending money is fun and makes us happy. But for how long? More often than not, the novelty of the new item you purchase wears off in a day or two and you are right back to where you started. So then you have to buy more to achieve that spending high and the cycle continues. This cycle is what keeps the majority of people broke, and getting caught in this behavior doesn't bring true happiness to their life. So instead, Steve explained you're much better off spending your money on things that will give you longer lasting happiness. For instance, buy your parents their dream car. Then every time you see them driving it, you will be happy that you were able to help them realize a lifelong dream of theirs. Alternatively, spend money on traveling like I did, Steve exclaimed. Seeing different parts of the world will make you appreciate what you have and will create memories that you can cherish for a lifetime. Therefore, money can buy you happiness, but only when spent correctly. Jeff walked away from that lunch table a changed man. From that point forward, he promised himself that he would use the 7 rules of money to become financially independent and quit his job to fulfill his dream of traveling the world. Well, it didn't happen overnight. A decade later, on a sunny Tuesday morning, Jeff walked into his boss's office, pulled out an envelope, and handed in his 2-week notice, or what he called his ticket to freedom. Thanks for watching. If you want to go from the life you have to the life you deserve, then hit the subscribe button below.
Alright guys, let me just share his video with you because I really like his upbeat personality. So it's Betterment Boss, okay? And he gave a lot of good helpful hints that we started to talk about before the video started. Which was some of the hints that he actually gave you more than 7. I'm gonna be honest. First thing we stated was pay yourself first. When you're in a business, when you're working for a corporation, the first thing we do is just pay our bills. We have to pay ourselves first, and I like that concept of the 20, 30, 50, which is 50% goes through your cost of living, 30% is to entertainment supposedly, and 20% is to savings. That 30% can be going towards your actual business and saving to start a business, or using that 30% of your income to reinvest, which will become a tax write-off later on when taxes come in, anything that you invest with your established business. Now, another thing that he stated, and what we talked about a lot, is having a real idea of your budget, what you're really dealing with. We have this fake concept as, oh, we can make some more money, some money will come. And I know that God got us as the tribes. God got our back. Sometimes miracles just happen. You're like, where that money come from? But we don't always have to just depend on miracles. We can actually plan ahead. So another thing that he mentioned, like what we do here on Secure Your Energy, is pay attention to the world economy, pay attention to the world issues, so we can make good decisions on what we want to invest on. As he stated, the next hint that he gave is set up an auto deduction. If it's going straight into a savings account, or if it's going to a savings account that you can't access, is more better. Because once you know you have a savings account and something hit the fan, you're going to that savings account. So if you can have a joint savings account with someone who like a parent, a friend, a husband, that for you to take money out of the account, they have to sign off. That would be amazing. And that person doesn't even have to have access to the account. You literally can have an authorized signature person to when you want to make withdrawals to help you have self-control. When I first started saving money, then I had to move out to Georgia and I was in Newark. My mother was my savings account. So I used to take money and put it in an envelope, and I wouldn't even tell her how much is in there. I'll just give her the envelope and she'll just put the envelope up for me. And I would not go to ask her for the money because she would drill me. She was just that type anyway. So I knew the person I was giving the money to, and she would have got on me if I was going to spend it on something stupid. So that's another contingency plan if you don't like to deal with the banking industry. You know, saving $250. If you can do $250 a week, that's amazing. But in situations that we're in now, if we can at least save $60 a week or $60 a month or every 2 weeks, that's a start. Something is a start. So if you can take that and put it to the side in a place where it'll be part of your emergency fund, $30 for your emergency fund, $30 for your savings, and the rest to pay your bills. It's just starting somewhere, you know. It's very important to start somewhere. The next thing is live below your means. Us as brown melanated people and Americans, but I say brown melanated people because y'all know I'm gonna talk about my people because we have a higher ladder to climb up out of the barrel. Okay, so what that goes to say, we have to not be so egocentric and materialistic. In this time, I know right now, like I said, y'all can't get your hair done, people can't get their hair cut, and they're living well. They're still loving each other, they're still functioning, and now they see that they really don't need all of these material items to function. You just need your family, food, and love, to be honest. I mean, that should really make the world go round. But anyway, having that emergency fund, as I mentioned to you, if you can have a savings and emergency fund, and you'll split that $60, 30-30, something is better than nothing, because in a few years of doing this every month, you will literally have a good amount of money saved to probably reinvest in something that will make you more money. It's just having that discipline, starting to discipline yourself. Use your debt wisely. Now, that's what I wanted to talk about. Robbing Peter to pay Paul. Myself right now, I'm going to tell you my little rob Peter to pay Paul so I can beat interest rates. And I don't suggest this to people who don't have a good residual income. So what happened was I was in situations where I was in a car accident, lost the car, couldn't replace the car right away. And that, allowed me to be in a situation where I didn't have income coming in, So at that point, I had good credit, and I said, okay, what I'm going to do is take a $10,000 credit card where I can take cash transfers. So you have to know the difference between a cash advance and a cash transfer, because there's different interest rates. So whatever card that you do decide to do this with, if you are going to take this route, you make sure you talk to that company in detail about the terms and conditions and everything. So I've been dealing with Discover, and Discover has been pretty decent, where they have a 0 APR interest rate for transfer credits up to your total amount that you can use, and you have 1 year to pay it off. So what I would do is I work on getting the car payments down, where I will work my best to, if the car was $10,000, I want to get it to about $6,000. I'm going to work to get it down to $6,000. Then what I will do is transfer that credit from the Discovery card and pay off the car. So I will own my car at this point, which will not have to force me to have so much high insurance rate for a car that is still receiving payments. That's another way where you can get a little bit of savings on your insurance. So what that goes to say, now I am working on paying this Discovery bill off with the same amount of payments that I was paying my car payments, but right now I have a whole year without interest. So the best thing to do is try, based on your income, is to double those payments and try to break those payments down within a year amount of time. If you have $5,000, you divide that into 12 months and see how much you need to pay a month to break it down. So that's kind of playing Russian roulette, robbing Peter to pay Paul, to try to beat interest rates on loans. This is something that I do and actually works for me, but it works because you have to be disciplined. You literally have to have a budget, and you have to have that income coming in before you do that. I do not suggest that you go get credit cards and take advances from one credit card to pay the next credit card to pay the next credit card, because you're going to find you in a bad situation eventually. Is eventually going to hit the fan if you cannot make these actual payments to the actual principal amount and not, we trying to beat the interest. So that's when I talk about robbing Peter to pay Paul. Using your debt wisely. The more you learn, the more you earn. And that's why we're doing this here on the Secure Your Energy Live. The more we learn, the more we earn. The more terminology we use, the more we know how to have those conversations with lenders and actual people who are investors, stockbroker investors that, are using our money to invest. As, a few weeks ago, we talked about mutual funds as well as college savings program, and the college savings program that I have for my kids is not really yielding any extra interest, and it seems like it's sitting in the account and I'm getting charged just fees to have the account. So you have to really pay attention to the market and what's going on and see if that is the right investment to utilize. Let's see. We're about to finish these broadcasts, but we're going to go into more innovative ways. 7 hacks to save money and on a low income. So it's hard to save money when you have a low income. But let's see what this Better Boss have to offer for you today. I think it's, Better Boss, he has to offer for you today. And see how much good information we could get from this video, because I really like Better Boss.
Do you feel like it's nearly impossible to save money based on your current income? While saving money is much easier when you're making big bucks, it is entirely possible to save money on a low income. Therefore, in this video, I will share with you 7 practical ways to save money on a low income. And if you're new to the channel, then hit the subscribe button for more life-changing content. Tip number 1, lower your housing costs. Whether you rent or you own, the cost of your housing will be your largest expense every month. Many financial experts suggest that the total of your rent or mortgage payments plus bills should be no more than 35% of your monthly after-tax income. And while this expense eats up a lot of your monthly income, it also offers the largest opportunity to find cost reductions, essentially allowing you to save more money even if you're earning a lower income. For renters, there are numerous ways you can reduce your housing costs, with the first being to find a cheaper place. Perhaps a single room in someone's house will be adequate for your needs instead of continuing to rent a 2-bedroom apartment. But if you have no desire to move, then it may be time to look into other ways to reduce your current rent. Effective strategies can include negotiating an exchange of your services, like doing renovations, for a rent reduction, or agreeing to sign a longer lease if the tenant's security is what your landlord wants. When I used to rent, I exchanged tax advice and monthly bookkeeping services for a few extra $100 off my rent. This simple swap of goods and services saved me thousands of dollars over the course of my lease, allowing me to save money while earning a low income. And if you're a homeowner, then the advice is a little bit different. While you probably don't want to move out to save money, even small things like turning off the lights and reducing your water usage can lead to substantial savings over time. However, the best way to offset your housing costs is to rent out a room. Renting out a room in your home can easily net you a few extra $100 a month, which can help cover your bills, allowing you to put more money in your piggy bank at month's end. Tip number 2, avoid debt. If you want to save money while making an income smaller than you'd like, then you must avoid debt at all costs. This is because debt deters you from saving in 2 ways. Firstly, having debt means monthly repayments. Every month, creditors will be knocking at your door for money, which if that debt was avoided would mean more money in your pocket at month's end. Secondly, debt is almost always associated with monthly interest charges. For lines of credit, these rates are typically around 3 to 5%, which means that on a $10,000 balance, you would be handing over around $25 to $40 a month. While this seems like a small amount of money, when compounded monthly, it can begin to add up. When you total the dollar value of all of your repayments and their associated interest charges, you can start to see how carrying debt can make saving on a low income a challenge. This issue is only further exacerbated when it comes to credit card debt. As of 2019, creditcards.com reports that the average interest rate on credit cards is 17.65%, meaning that getting into debt is an expensive ordeal, and if you're carrying the average credit card balance per US adult of $6,348, which at that rate means you're paying about $1,120.42 in interest charges to credit card companies. Therefore, if you want to save money on a low income, you need to avoid debt and their associated interest charges at all costs. Tip number 3, limit entertainment costs. We all want to have fun, but unfortunately for many people, this comes at a hefty cost. Eating out, hitting the bar after work, going to the movie theater, and other entertainment purchases can make a huge dent in your budget. But luckily, it doesn't have to. When I was younger, my main source of fun was going out to the club with my friends. But unfortunately, most nights were very expensive. Between cabbing to and from the bar, buying drinks, and paying cover, most nights ran me $100 easily. As I got older, my attention shifted towards growing my wealth, and I didn't want to lose out on social time with my friends. This made me brainstorm new ways to get in quality time with my friends while not breaking the bank. One of my favorite alternatives has been going on walks with my friends, but some other ideas I've come up with include having dinner parties at home rather than at a restaurant, and watching a movie on Netflix rather than going to the theater. In short, we all need to have fun, but we don't need to spend an arm and a leg to do it. Tip number 4, understand your wants versus your needs. There's no doubt that spending money makes us feel good, but when you're earning a low income and have a desire to save, you need to be able to delineate your wants from your needs. For instance, you may want to upgrade your phone to the newest model, but you probably don't need to. You may want a new shirt to wear out this Friday, but you probably already own plenty of good shirts. When you're not making a lot of money, you have to be extra diligent and spend only on your core expenses. So how should you draw the line between want and need items? I like to classify anything that relates to my survival as a need. These are things like food, clothes, shelter, and transportation in their most basic form. Sure, buying a Ferrari is transportation, but in its most basic form, taking the bus also gets you from point A to point B. Want items are basically anything that falls outside your needs group. This includes anything that is an extension of things you already own. For example, if you were to upgrade your phone to the new model just to get a camera with an extra 2 megapixels in it. Now, of course, you can't restrict your spending to the bare minimum forever. So if you do want to splurge on a want item, here's what I suggest. Set a financial goal you want to achieve, like saving $1,000. Once you've hit the goal, you can then go ahead and purchase the item you've been wanting. This technique is great for 2 reasons. First, it helps you build the habit of forming financial goals. And second, it gives you time to process how badly you want the item, as often we purchase things out of impulse and find ourselves experiencing buyer's remorse soon after. So if you want to ensure you save money on a low income, you must be able to delineate your wants from your needs. Tip number 5, spend wisely on groceries. The average amount of money a family of 4 spends on groceries is estimated at nearly $1,000 a month, which makes it one of the higher monthly expenses we typically incur. However, with a bit of planning and the strategies I'm about to share with you, it's not unreasonable to be able to cut that number in half. The first step in cutting your monthly grocery bill is to plan your meals ahead of time. This will not only be a step in the right direction from a health perspective, but it will also ensure that you only buy what you absolutely need. You see, whether you realize it or not, we waste a lot of food. A 2018 study in Science Daily found that Americans waste on average a pound of food a day, which if avoided can mean big savings in the grocery department. Besides avoiding waste, planning ahead will allow you to buy foods that are on sale, meaning that your typical $250 a week grocery bill can easily shrink to $200 or less, ultimately putting more money in your pocket at month's end. The second step in reducing your grocery costs is to eat less meat. Meat is by far the most expensive grocery item you can buy, which makes it an easy target when trying to reduce your bill. Now, I'm not saying you need to become a vegetarian in order to save money, but by cutting down your meat consumption and replacing it with cheaper options like beans, you will be able to cut down your grocery bill drastically. The final tip that will help you reduce your food bills is to only bring cash when going grocery shopping. All too often, people find themselves at the grocery store hungry and eager to fill up their shopping carts, which is facilitated by the seemingly endless ability to spend on credit. Instead, plan out your purchases ahead of time and only bring enough cash for those items you need, so you don't let your hunger get the best of you. Tip number 6, practice zero-sum budgeting. When practicing zero-sum budgeting, you are intentionally spending every single dollar you make, but not in the way it sounds. Zero-sum budgeting involves allocating your income towards each of your expense line items and then earmarking any leftover funds towards a savings or investment account. Let's use an example to illustrate this budgeting method. Say you're earning $2,000 a month after tax at your job. Using the zero-sum budgeting method, you would allocate this entire $2,000 towards your monthly expense line items. Typical expenses include rent, car payments, gas, groceries, and entertainment. But using this method, you would also create a line item for savings. Once this listing is complete, you would then allocate your entire $2,000 to the line items, which forces you to put part of your income in savings. This strategy is particularly effective for those who typically get to the end of the month and realize they have no money left for savings. But with the zero-sum budgeting method, as long as you stick to your initial budget, you will be sure to see your bank balance grow. Tip number 7, automate your savings. The final step in ensuring you save money, even on a low income, is to automate your savings. One of the best things I have ever done for my finances was setting up automated deductions from my pay with my employer. In essence, what these deductions allowed me to do was send part of my paycheck directly into a savings account instead of the full amount going right into my checking account. When I initially set up this process, I allocated 10% of my after-tax income to my savings account. But over time, I found that I've been able to up this to about 20% and double my monthly savings. Now, I think this savings technique has been so successful for 2 primary reasons. First, it allowed me to pinpoint exactly how much I wanted to save. In fact, by using automated deductions, you can set your deduction to the amount you have designated as monthly savings in your zero-sum budget, which helps you tie the 2 money-saving techniques together. Second, it took the thought of having to save off of my mind, allowing me to focus on other important things like improving my skills in order to make more money. I often preach that once you have a solid savings technique in effect, that making more money is the #1 way to save more, and by freeing up my mental bandwidth, I was able to take on more freelance work, earning me extra income, and ultimately boosting my savings. Thanks for watching. If you want to go from
All right, guys. So he gave a lot more helpful tips, helpful hints, 7 hacks on how to save money with low income. It can be done, but it has to be done with discipline. Live below your means. Have that idea that your cost of living, you want to keep it below 30% of your actual income. And that will help you as well when you're talking about building your credit up as well, dealing with these creditors, Equifax, and the rest of the credit reporting industries, where they weigh your actual credit score based on your debt to income level, your actual, or your credit versus your debt level. Again, look for habitations or houses or places that you can stay that's cheaper or for your means. If it's just you and your daughter or you and one child, why do you need a 3-bedroom house? That's understandable. You can want one. That was your life dream. But in situations like this, you may lose your life dream just for, living outside of your means. If that's within your means, that's understandable. But if it's not within your means, you have to be realistic until you can build to that point. It was times where I stayed in the basement with my 2 kids before I became a nurse. And I was sitting there living within my means. I knew that I couldn't have this big nice house or try to get a 3-bedroom apartment for me and my 2 kids, because right now it wasn't suitable. So we were living in a one bedroom basement apartment, and we shared it until I can move on to something better. It was just what you had to do, and budgeting and planning, avoiding debts. These one-day lending companies, that is not a great idea to go and put your title up for your car for $1,000 payday if you know you don't have income to pay the $1,000 payday back. It'd be more suitable for you to go to a family member or someone you may know to see, can you help pull together money to help you, instead of you actually putting up collateral for the item that you may need. So I wanted to put that out there for people who do that same day loaning. I see that buy your title out here down south, and I think that's very dangerous and that's wrong what they're doing to people. Limit your entertainment costs. We love to be entertained. We don't need all the entertainment. We have to entertain ourselves. We can do that. Like you said, Netflix, having dinner parties at home, having, like for instance, the other day I'm seeing they're not all supposed to be gathering that much, But I'm seeing a group of kids and their family getting together, and they literally having soccer. They having like a volleyball match in the backyard. So the families is finding ways to keep themselves busy without going to having spending money on places like laser tag, David and Buster's, and things like that. You have to find innovative ways to entertain yourself and lower your need, your demand, your need for nonsense. So know your wants, your versus your needs. Spend only on your core expenses, your living, your eating, clothes, washing. Those should be the main things that you should allocate your money to if you have a low income before you go allocate it to any extracurricular activities, like going out, drinking, smoking. Even if you have a habit that know that is detrimental, you have to work on getting that habit together. People are addicted to not only drugs and alcohol, but they're addicted to shopping. They're addicted to buying certain products, having millions of shoes. These things, you have to work your way out of it, because you have to understand that we have been conditioned to be consumers, and you no longer want to be a consumer, because in situations like this now, you're sitting duck. We're sitting ducks waiting for the companies to produce stuff like, oh my God, what is the government going to do? They're going to produce vents. They're going to do this. And we've been waiting for 3 weeks to get ventilators and get protective wear and things to come down into the private sector. That's ridiculous. So we have more people who are innovative in the private sector and not dependent on the government aid. Some of these things could have been mitigated. So spend money wisely, especially when you're at the grocery store. Don't go hungry. That is very important, because I'll be going first thing in the morning. Didn't have no breakfast. I get up in there like, oh, shit, look at all these sweets. And, I done drinking my coffee, So with that goes to say, it is good to go in there maybe with cash. It is going there with a budget plan. Usually my budget plan, when I go food shopping, I don't want to spend $140 in one grocery store at a time. So I pick what grocery store has the items that I need, that I know they sell them at a reasonable price, and then I allocate my spending that way. So I'll be at Kroger picking up my meats, juices, few canned goods, if I do canned goods, those type of things. And then I will go to Aldi's and go get my vegetables, and they have it such cheap, and any other fillers that I may need, because Aldi's have a better price. So between those two organizations, I swear I find more savings. So in a week, I will spend no more than $170 for 3 people to eat. And then I probably can get through the next week without having to spend more than about $40 on fillers. So you got 170 plus 40, that's 210 every 2 weeks. We'll do 420 for 3 people to eat a month. This is my budget. For 3 people to eat a month is 420, and it can be done. So y'all just have to literally plan ahead and control your eating and spending. If you have uncontrolled eating habits and you're just buying all these snacks and stuff, you're not going to be able to budget. You're not going to be able to budget, because you're living in a state of gluttony, and what's happening is that it's addictive, part of this equation that you have to get under control before you can even budget yourself. So practice the zero-sum budget, which means you want all of your budget to be accounted for, and whatever money you have left, you will put it into a savings account or possibly invest in your business.
The life you have to.
Okay, so this was a great video. Shared again. I want y'all to check out his YouTube, Betterment Boss. That was 2 videos that I found from him that I really love. We're about to start ending this broadcast. I'm so happy for you guys to be with us. I know I've been here for like almost an hour and a half or 2. I haven't been online with y'all on Secure Your Energy. But if you always know, when I share information, it's high-pack information, and it's actually a clear, concise way of looking at what's going on in society right now. So our goal for Secure Your Energy for these next few broadcasts is building the people up. And now we talked about all the disasters and all the crazy things that's going on, how they set us up in the economy, the trade wars, stocks. Let's figure out how we're going to come back and be comeback kids in these situations, because God doesn't put you in a situation where you're knocked down that you can't get up. This is when you show your true resilience in situations like this. So 5 business ideas you can start with no money. Okay, so let's see what our see what this YouTube content creator has to offer. Let me just see what his page name again. Minority Mindset. Okay, so check out what he has to offer, and we're going to end our broadcast on this note. But I want us to start getting our brains going, get it going, because we need to start these businesses. We can't depend on the government. We can't.
What's up, everybody? I am Jaspreet Singh, and welcome to the Minority Mindset. One of the biggest entrepreneurship myths that you'll hear is that you need a lot of money to start a business. Sorry, but that's not true. What you talking about, Jaspreet? I bet you can't name 3 business ideas that you can't start with a lot of money. Well, you're in luck, because today I'm going to go over 5 business ideas that you can start with $0 if you have the right mindset and the hustle. Now, none of the things that I'm going to talk about are easy or get rich quick type of things, but they can work if you put in the work. And like with anything else, there are risks associated with starting a business, so you should speak to an attorney in your area so you understand all the local laws and regulations that govern your business ideas. First, sell things that you buy for free. Wait. What? Remember, we're talking about starting from nothing, right? So find things of value that people are trying to get rid of and take them for free and then sell them. Now, this might sound really difficult, but it's actually a lot easier than you might think, because a lot of people don't want to go through the hassle of reselling their stuff, so they'll take their used TVs or furniture, which are pretty valuable still, and they'll put it on the curb for the garbage man or woman to take away. And if you want to find a gold mine, you can go to a college campus at the end of the year, and you will see tons of people that are moving out of their dorms and their apartments, and they'll be throwing away their expensive lamps and furniture and dressers, and you can take these things and sell them to incoming college kids. Now, you might be wondering, wait, is that even legal? Well, you should always check the local ordinances to see what the local laws and regulations are in your area, but in general, when somebody takes something and they put it on the curb to be thrown away, it's considered abandoned property and anybody can take it. And once you start to make a little bit of money doing this, then you can take your profits and you can go to garage sales and you can buy things for cheap and then sell them online for even bigger profits. Second, start event planning. So I have a lot of experience with this because event planning was my first real business, and what you can do is you can go to local restaurants or other venues in your area and ask them if you can host a show or event or a party there. Then your job is to convince the owner or the manager of this venue that they should not charge you, because they're going to make a whole bunch of money inside by selling food or drinks or whatever, and you're going to make your money by charging cover or an entrance fee for everybody that comes inside. If you can get 100 people to come and you charge them $10 a person, you just made $1,000 in one night. This is where it is super important to learn how to sell and how to talk, and then if you need to bring a DJ, find somebody who'll be willing to work for a percentage of the cover charge that you make. This way they'll be incentivized to bring more paying customers, because the more you make, the more they make. Third, start a t-shirt selling business. You've probably seen that every single organization or club or group or team or whatever gives t-shirts to their members so people can walk around saying, hey, I'm a part of this really cool organization. See it on my shirt? Well, I noticed that too when I was in college, and I also noticed that a lot of these organizations were buying these t-shirts from retailers who charged a lot of money. So then what I did was I went onto Google and I found some online t-shirt manufacturers who could print the same t-shirts at a lower price, and then I went to our school's directory and I found every single student organization on campus, and I emailed every single one of them and I said, hey, I'm a student on campus with you and I just started this t-shirt business and I would love to work with you. I can make you the exact same t-shirt that you want for a lower price in 2 weeks or less. Then these organizations would send me their designs, and I would take that design and I would go online and input it there, and it would say something like, it's gonna cost you $4.25 a shirt if you bought 150 shirts. And then I would go to this organization and I would say, hey, I can get you the shirt made for $5.50. This way I would make like $1.25 per shirt, and this was cheaper than what the other retailers were charging. This way it was a win-win. They would save money, I would make money, and they got exactly what they wanted. Fourth, be a marketer. I used to be obsessed with magic tricks. I still like them now, but when I was younger, there was this really cool kiosk in the mall that sold magic trick stuff. What colors do you see here? Look carefully. Do you see purple and yellow? If so, watch carefully. Ooh, I liked some of the tricks that this kiosk was selling, so I bought some of them, and then I went back later and I bought some more, and then I was like, I don't want to keep paying for more and more magic supplies, so then I started talking to the owner, and I realized they don't have any sort of internet presence or a website or any social media presence. Long story short, I helped them get online, and in return, they gave me free magic stuff. Go to your mall or local city fair and start talking to small business owners that are selling their products in person but don't have any sort of online presence, and then help them sell their products on the internet in exchange for a monthly consulting fee. What will probably end up happening is 99.9% of these businesses won't understand why they need you, so they'll tell you to go away because they're doing just fine, right? This is why you need to be creative. The first thing you gotta do is start talking to these business owners and get to know them. If you're just walking around handing out business cards left and right, your cards are just gonna end up in the garbage. So start talking to these business owners, see what they need, see what they do, and then tell them that you have this marketing business, and because you love their business and their products so much, you wanna help them out by giving them a 1-month free trial of your business, and then see where it goes. If you do a good job during the 1-month free trial, then a percentage of people that you're working with will want to pay you to continue working with you. And if you're looking for tips on how you can grow and build your presence online, whether it's for your business or for somebody else's, we have an ebook on it that you can read for free when you sign up for our entrepreneurship and business newsletter, and you can do that by clicking the link up here or by clicking the link in the description below. And number 5, do services. Here are 5 services that you can do for people in your neighborhood that won't cost you $1 to start. You can pull the weeds, rake the leaves, shovel the snow, tutor their kids, and walk their dogs. Walk around your neighborhood and start knocking on people's doors and let them know that you're starting this business and that you live on the same street as them. This will build credibility, and as soon as you start getting some clients, ask them to be your testimonials to help you get more clients. Yes, it is very hard. Yes, it will take time. Yes, you will get rejected by a lot of people, and no, you will not make a ton of money starting tomorrow. But you have to decide if that's the reason why you're going to give up, or if that's the reason why you're going to become tougher and be a better entrepreneur and go out and MIH. Make it happen. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed our video, hit that thumbs up button and share it with one friend so we can help spread the word. We release new videos on entrepreneurship, business, and money every Wednesday.
All right, guys, that was a great video with some great suggestions for you guys to see if you can just go out and start making money without money. You have to be creative, you have to be diligent, resistant, as well as be ready to get some no's. But once those yes start flowing in, you may be prosperous beyond your wildest dreams. So I want to say thank you guys for being here with us on Secure Your Energy today. Our next broadcast will be focusing on prime-time home buyers. That's my innovative way of creating residual money for myself. I currently have a team of individuals who are ready to invest and move forward. And we're going to talk about why this is the best time to actually invest in tax liens based on our current economy and economic state of individuals who are not prepared. And we don't want to be predatory, but we want to be able to pick up the pieces where people may fall. So with that goes to say, I have an innovative way to make residual money. That's from prime-time home buyers. We'll be talking about that later on this week of how to get into investing in tax liens and tax deeds.